What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another opponent preview. We are talking about the Stanford Cardinal today. Ducks getting ready to head on down to Palo Alto this week for a big matchup on the farm. I'm joined again by Ali Osborne to talk about this matchup. Ali, how are you doing? We're excited to have you on again. You've been killing it with us, and you also got your start on the written portion of everything, talking about the Australian sensation Tom Snee.
Oh my gosh, the Australian sensation himself. I tried to be festive today. I wore Cardinal lipstick just because we're playing the Cardinals, trying to be fashionable, trying to be in. But the piece I wrote about Tom this week was just wonderful. I personally always want to know the person behind the pads, behind the scoreboard, on the field. Who is that person? And with Tom specifically, he has so much life experience and is just a really humble, well-spoken guy. And from interviewing him and interviewing his former coach, Nathan Chapman from Pro Kick Australia, was such a awesome experience and has really gotten me excited to explore more of the stories that players have on the Oregon team and to really shed a light on the people, not just the players.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It was really cool to read, especially since you were able to get in touch with one of Tom's coaches all the way back in Australia at Pro Kick.
Oh my God. The timing was crazy. So all of my emails to him would be at like 4 a.m. his time, 5 a.m. his time. And you could just see the passion he has for his former pupil because he was willing to wake up at 8 a.m. Australian time to get on a Zoom call with me 3 p.m. this time. So absolute shout out to Pro Kick Australia. Thank you so much for having the time and having the passion to talk about Tom. That was really cool. But yeah, I just wanted to add, crazy on the scheduling.
Right on. Well, we love to hear it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Head on over to ducksdigest.com to check that story out. Kicking Beyond Borders, a Tom Snee story by Ali Osborne. So check that out. But now we are going to talk about the Oregon offense against the Stanford defense in the first of our two-part preview series. We did this last week, so make sure to stay tuned and check our next video out to hear all about the Oregon defense against the Stanford offense. Ali, we talked about how the Oregon offense performed against Arizona last weekend. Real hot start, and then things kind of fizzled out a little bit, but they were able to close the game out strong, which is what matters. 41-19 win. They passed the ball relatively well. Kind of surprised that they went away from the run when that was working so well. But yeah, kind of a mixed bag. Let's just where do you think we should start here when we're talking about the Oregon offense?
Well, first off, I think we need to start with CJ Verdell. Like, where else do you start? He's currently closing in on the number 5 position for rushing yards for Oregon, which is insane. He's just been a monster. That 70-yard touchdown in the first couple plays of the Arizona game was essential to really bringing up that mood and to really taking down the Wildcats. And he's going to be a major player. Another major player would be Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown currently is at just killing it right now. And what we really need to do is, or what the Oregon Ducks really need to do is stop sacrificing him and running, because Anthony Brown does love to do the run game a little bit, but he's running into linebacker territory, and that's some issues for injuries. However, he is currently at 47.6 completions versus the conference and 764 pass yards. Extremely impressive. It's going to be very, very interesting to see him play against Stanford and their current defensive scheme right now. And Max, what else are you thinking about that?
Yeah, lots of fun points to kind of get into here. Just to keep it on CJ for a second, he's had a phenomenal year, and just off to such a hot start with such a great tandem between him and Travis Dye. We even saw a little bit of Seven McGee last weekend. But this Stanford defense, particularly in the run game, they're not really anything special. They are getting obliterated on the ground right now. To just bring it to some context from a number standpoint, averaging 209 yards on the ground per game here. The
Yeah.
Stanford defense is, so they're just getting gashed on the ground. And fortunately for the Ducks, as many people know, the run game is their strong suit. Currently averaging 206 yards per game on the ground. So it sounds like one key that we definitely want to see from the Oregon offense is pound the rock. Get CJ and Travis going early. Run Anthony Brown every now and then, but certainly want to be cautious as far as him taking hits. It's great to see that dynamic in an offense because it just keeps the defense on their toes a little bit more. But you want to keep them healthy. But as far as some other points here, Allie, that to answer your question that we might be looking at with this Oregon offense, how is the offensive line going to play? This is going to be one of the best matchups that they're going to be facing on this young season since they went out to Columbus. That was definitely the best front that they've faced so far. But I think having that experience against a big-time program with some really talented players, Haskell Garrett, one of them, it's going to come in handy on the farm this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And as TJ Bass said a couple months ago, mentality, you don't got to question that mentality. We have some phenomenal offensive linemen really at the front, and they were a little shaky second and third quarter against Arizona, but they're just by the fourth quarter and the first quarter, we saw some really promising stuff from them. And we've got just solid guys at every single position. I mean, I mentioned TJ Bass, just a phenomenal left guard. And then we also have some great sub-ins where Jackson Powers has been coming in at guard. And he's also a great center. If maybe we're ahead a lot by after the second half, he can come in for Forsyth, but I highly doubt that Forsyth will be taken out unless it's by a lot. And then we also have Jaramillo, who keeps coming in at tackle, and he's been showing some promise. So I think that right now our guys at the front with Forsyth, with Walk, with TJ, with Malasala, with Malasala in the depth for sure, with Stephen Jones and with George Moore. We've got some great guys in starting and some great guys in depth. Obviously, I mentioned three of them earlier. And I think right now what we need to do is pound the rock, show that physicality that Mario Cristobal and Maribal really pride themselves in their offensive line, and just hit the Cardinal where it hurts.
Absolutely. We want to stay there on the offensive line for a moment. Allie, you were talking about Sala and kind of how he's been playing. He's been kind of doing a little bit of a timeshare of late with Stephen Jones. Stephen Jones last year was largely functioning in that sixth man rotation on the offensive line, but now he's really holding his own, and I think he has a little bit of the edge at right tackle. And I was talking to him today, Wednesday, depending on when you're watching this, heading into this matchup, and I was asking him a little bit about that dynamic. What's it kind of like, and he was saying that it's actually been working really well for them. Their communication is super strong. So when they're coming out, someone's coming off the field and someone's about to go in, they're communicating and saying, okay, what are you seeing out there? What do I kind of need to be aware of? What kind of changes are we maybe seeing from the last time I was in there? So like that communication is really strong. And I think that that's a big thing to notice here going into this matchup, just because some people might be questioning, how much is this offensive line really able to gel because they've had that heavy rotation so far this year. But like you were saying, it's going to be key to pound the rock. And are we going to see more of Jackson Powers Johnson? When he came into the game, the game wasn't put away, as you would think would be the situation with a lot of these true freshmen coming in. Is he going to prove to be one of those guys that's just too talented to keep off the field, even at this point in conference play, heading into a really, really big matchup against Stanford? They're 2-2 right now. And I think that they're one of the teams in this conference that you really can't sleep on. I think that regardless of how the results have been in previous seasons, they always get the right kind of guy that David Shaw wants, and they always come ready to play.
Absolutely. And when you look at I think that there is no way we're not going to see Jackson Powers in some capacity in this upcoming game. I think his energy alone, the way he approaches football alone, is enough to keep putting him in there. And his execution on the plays that he's been in has been great. I think that especially for a couple of the substitutes, that I hope that there's a little more aggression when facing the Cardinal. There seems to be, when it comes to blocks, a little bit of a hesitancy for follow through on some of the deeper depths and the depth chart for offensive line. But if they just bring that aggression that the Oregon Ducks are known for, if they bring that anger, that mean green fighting machine, then I think that the Ducks are certainly for offensive line going to create some great holes for the runners to go through and to really rack up points on the board, which, I mean, score prediction now. I think it's going to be low 30s for the Ducks, low 20s for Stanford. It's going to be kind of that same spread that we've seen throughout the Ducks season so far, and hopefully with a strong offensive line and our really, really powerful rushers, we will be able to be 5-0 for the first time since 2013.
There you have it. Allie's prediction for the week. I'm still working on my prediction. You can catch that on Ducks Digest very soon. We'll have our roundtable predictions. But Allie, we've talked about a lot of names to know that are important for the Ducks heading into this matchup. Let's flip sides here and talk about some of the big names on the Cardinal defense that are worth a mention here. I think right off the top, the two biggest ones for me are Thomas Booker. He's an experienced defensive lineman, 6'4", 300 plus pounds, and this dude is a freak athlete. He can move
23 tackles this season, just by the way.
Yeah,
Thomas Booker.
He's off to a strong start for sure. He's a guy that the Stanford defensive staff, they feel comfortable moving him all over the defensive line, whether that be in the interior as a tackle or on the outside as an end. So he's going to be a force, and definitely someone that that Alex Mirabal and Mario Cristobal and that offensive staff are going to have to key in on if they want to have this offense humming. And then another one to know is cornerback Caillou Blue Kelly. That dude is just an awesome athlete. He's had a pair of really impressive interceptions already on the season. He had one of the few highlights in Dallas when they just got absolutely smacked by K-State at the beginning of the year. It was in the corner of the end zone. If you want to read the story, he's one of our defensive players to watch. And Dylan Rubenking wrote that. You got the highlight in there, and he almost ran the route for the receiver. By the time the receiver was turning around, he didn't know where the ball was, and Caillou Blue Kelly just reached over and snagged it, toe tapped it, and he had a pick six against USC. So definitely some big names to watch here as the Ducks prepare to face the Cardinal this weekend.
Totally. And also another one to look out for is linebacker Stephen Herron. He currently has 3 sacks, and they've been playing him as an outside linebacker, and he has been an absolute beast so far. He has been ripping up offenses, and I would definitely watch for those 3 names when you're watching the Cardinal for sure.
And then staying on that side of the ball, as far as, maybe some names to look at or just how this roster is looking heading into this matchup against the Ducks, I think that that secondary is a little banged up. They're a little injured at the cornerback spot in particular, and I think this is going to be a great opportunity for the wide receivers to really step up to the plate. I think that they've had a strong season so far. We haven't really seen anybody push too far ahead because they've been distributing the ball so much. Like the offensive line, we've seen a lot of rotation at that position.
Yep.
Johnny Johnson, I think he led last game with receptions of 3, 8 total different pass catchers getting involved here. So, Allie, do you think that, with them being a little injured, that we might see somebody kind of break out a little bit in this game? Is there potential for that, in your opinion?
It's the Ducks. The run game is what they do. And when you have guys that can't, and a injured Stanford defense, especially in their secondary positions, there's a lot of opportunity for the Ducks to take advantage of that and to really just start poking holes and running through and racking up those points. I would say that as long as there is the consistent communication that we expect from the Oregon offensive line, the consistent communication with the runners, and Anthony Brown doesn't sacrifice himself as much, that would be great. I hope that we can get a little bit better on the passing game, but other than that, I think that the Ducks have a serious advantage going in against a very, not very, but an injured Stanford at the moment.
Absolutely. Maybe you talk about some of those running backs. Maybe we'll see Travis Dye utilized more out of the backfield. He's been phenomenal throughout his Oregon career, just coming out, and I feel like he's a guy in particular that really looks at home in this Joe Moorhead offense. I personally want to see more of the freshman wide receivers. Troy Franklin's the guy that's highest on that organizational chart at the X position. We also saw a little bit of Dante Thornton in the Stony Brook game, taking his first college touch to the house for a really big touchdown, which was great to see. But
And what
I
about
want to see those
Terrence
guys
Ferguson?
involved.
What about Terrence Ferguson? We've seen Terrence Ferguson getting a lot of reps recently. And as a freshman, are we going to see him come in after the second half or even before that? Because he's been a real weapon against Arizona and also against Stony Brook.
Terrence Ferguson's a guy that I'm really, really high on. I mean, he's established himself as a pretty bona fide starter at this point. Both he and Maliki Montevau are regulars out there on the field for the Oregon offense. And Spencer Webb got in there as well last game for a touchdown of his own. So the tight ends are contributing at a pretty high clip already. Ferguson is, I'd say, ahead of schedule at this point. I personally would like to see him maybe flexed out a little bit in the slot every now and then. That was one of the things that I was most excited about when I started to get to know him as a recruit, was just how he was used out there in Colorado. Kind of like a wide receiver guy in a tight end's body. He's huge. Both he and Maliki have put on a lot of weight since they got here, and that's why they don't look like freshmen. But the tight ends and all the potential there from these freshman pass catchers is certainly very, very interesting for me and something I'm going to have my eye on.
And Max, any other thoughts regarding the offense, Stanford's defense, how this is really going to pan out?
Yeah, I think that, if I'm the Oregon offense, if I'm Joe Moorhead, I want to come out again and get that fast start. That was so awesome to see last weekend, because if you can get that fast start, it just helps you build that momentum in the game and, really take it to them, deliver that opening punch. In that same conversation with Stephen Jones today, he was telling me that, for an offensive lineman to get off to a fast start, you want to deliver that opening punch, hit them in the mouth, show them that you're not here to get bullied. It's game time. We're here to play. So really just establish that physicality against one of the more physical teams, if not the most physical team in the Pac-12, other than the Ducks. I feel like they've definitely branded themselves under that physicality with Mario Cristobal, but the offense clearly still has some work to do after what we saw from Arizona last week. And Cristobal has been adamant about that, good progress, but miles to go has kind of been his mantra as far as, the big picture of his team this season. But those are kind of my final thoughts on the offense. If you guys are watching this, we would really appreciate you subscribing to the channel to show us some support. So it really helps us do what we do, bring you that Oregon content that you love. We're trying to get more frequent here on the YouTube channel. I had a video breaking down Pierce Clarkson, 2023 St. John Bosco quarterback, his visit. So follow us on all the socials. You can see Allie and I's username there. But Allie, before we get out of here, where can people find more of you?
Oh my gosh, you can find me everywhere. You can find me at Allie Sosborne on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me daily at Central Oregon Daily News in Bend. I am on ABC and CBS channels. And give me a follow on whatever. I'd love to talk Oregon Ducks all the time. And the key for this game, consistency.
Absolutely. We'll see if the Ducks can string together a strong 4 quarters of football here. Really haven't done that since they were at the Shoe in week 2, but it'll be something to follow here as we prepare for another matchup here at Ducks Digest. We're really excited to continue our coverage here, and we're rolling right along in football season, the best season. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for our next video when we talk about the Oregon defense against the Stanford offense.
Go Ducks!